All right. Thanks for tapping in with Street TV. I got another Eric Holder trial update. Day 7 of testimony was to resume today, but there was no Eric Holder in court. So the judge called the jury out and he told jurors that because of unforeseen circumstances, I am going to excuse you for the rest of the day. He said this around 9:45 a.m. and told the jury to come back tomorrow morning at 9:30. And then I did some talking to the attorneys and I found out that Eric Holder was assaulted in, I believe it would have been in jail, or he could have possibly been assaulted in the court building, in the jail in the court. But he was assaulted to the point where he couldn't come to court. So that's the reason why the judge excused the jury and had the jury come back for tomorrow. And American Cholo was in the house. Turn it up a bit. Well, I can't turn it up a bit. Can I? Let's see. How about now? Let's see. Test, test, test. Oh, yeah. Maybe. I don't know if that sounds louder. It's the first time I'm actually using this microphone. So that was one development. I got it up a little bit on the control here. So that was one development. And the second development was the bench warrant that was issued for Rimpau, Evan McKenzie, that has been canceled. The DA is not interested in pursuing Evan McKenzie anymore, so that body attachment was squashed. So that was kind of interesting. Just all of a sudden, they said that they didn't need him anymore, and that's interesting because I actually said that in a video I did a few days ago. Like, there's nothing else that he could add based on all the witnesses that have testified so far. So that was it. No testimony on day 7. No witnesses. So we'll be back in court tomorrow morning. And those are the two developments that happened. So I'll take some questions for anybody that is interested in knowing what's going on with this trial. I've been sitting in it since the first day of testimony. Today would have been day 7. I'm not sure if I'm going to still treat today as day 7 and call tomorrow day 8. I got to figure that out. But that's what it is. Eric Holder was assaulted. He was physically assaulted. And he was unable to come to court this morning. So I'll take some questions here. I feel sorry for Eric and Nipsey. They don't need another first-person account of what happened in a high-profile murder case. Did they really stab him? That's a good question. I asked the attorney if he was stabbed. He said that all he knows is that he was assaulted, physically assaulted, sort of like beat up assaulted. So I didn't get the sense that he was stabbed. So I don't know if it was a stabbing. It wasn't characterized as a stabbing. It was characterized more as a physical beatdown. So that's all I have on that. I'll find out some more information later this afternoon. But the way it was told to me, there was a physical assault, physical beating assault. Stabbing was not even mentioned. Why is everyone asking about a stabbing? I see that about 3 or 4 times. When will Eric show up in court? Good question there. We're hoping tomorrow morning. but it's not guaranteed. It all depends on how severe his injuries were today. So in about an hour after I get off this live, I'm gonna make a couple phone calls and find out if court is still on for tomorrow morning. Do they have him in the court tank with the other inmates? Well, after he leaves court in the afternoon, he goes back to the county jail. He doesn't stay in the tank in the courthouse overnight. So we don't know if he got assaulted in the jail, in the court tank, or in the jail maybe over the weekend, yesterday, Sunday, or Saturday, or Friday. So on Thursday, he was returned back to the county jail. So it could have happened any time between Friday and yesterday. We don't have any details on the assault. Does Holder being assaulted make the court look bad? People get assaulted in the LA County Jail all the time. All the time. I've seen dudes get their jaws broken. I've seen dudes with metal bars screwed to their jaw to fix injuries. People have been stabbed. So I don't know if it makes anyone look bad, but the judge didn't tell the jury anything that happened to Eric Holder, but I'm certain that some of the jurors were able to see that Eric Holder wasn't sitting at the table. So some of the jurors, if they were paying attention, they have to wonder, okay, Eric Holder wasn't in court. So this definitely, the reason why we're being excused has to do with him. But the judge quickly dismissed him and told him to come back in the morning. Holder's about to get only 10 to 15 years and walk out to witness protection. You conspiracy. He's going to have a rough time in jail. Yeah, you got to be built for that. So those were the two developments. Eric Holder was not in court. The jury was excused. The judge didn't say anything about him being assaulted. He just said, due to circumstances out of our control, we are not having session today. And then I found out that Paul Dale has been canceled. His whole bench warrant has been canceled. This, how is this the first time they got to him? Well, you can't assume this is the first time. We're only hearing about it because it's trial. It could have been happening on and off during the last 3 years. Stuff like that doesn't get reported to the media. So I don't know if this is the first time. It could have easily, he could have easily been getting into fights throughout these last 3 years. Heard it was a dirty blade. He was assaulted or no? Yes, he was definitely assaulted. I can't say it was a stabbing. All I know is that he was physically assaulted. It was characterized as a beating. Don't know if it was a stabbing. So I'll take some questions. Today was day 7. There was no testimony. The prosecution is still calling witnesses. We believe the prosecution only has one witness left, which would be the coroner. And then the defense gets to put on their witnesses. We were hoping that all of that would have happened today. We could have got through all the witnesses today, and then tomorrow would have been closing statements. But Eric Holder was assaulted, so now there's another delay in the trial. After court resumes, how long should the trial take? There's only 1 day left of testimony, not even a whole day. You got 3 witnesses. Coroners usually go quick. Coroners don't testify for a long time. Then the defense is going to call back Cowboy. I would say that's going to take at least an hour, maybe more. And then the defense is going to call a gang expert. That's going to take at least an hour and a half, 2 hours, cross-examination and direct. So all of those witnesses can get done in 1 day. And then the following day, they're going to do their closing arguments. So there's really 2 full days left of this trial. These last 3 witnesses and then closing arguments. How long before sentencing? Well, we don't even know what Eric Holder is going to be found guilty of. But usually sentencing is about a month after conviction. So if he's convicted sometime this month in June, he'll probably get sentenced in July, no later than August. And after he's sentenced, he'll be on the next chain within a month to prison. He'll be in reception by, let's say, August or September. He'll be just hitting the prison reception yard, which I believe will be his first time in prison. Hey, Alex, why are you covering this case but not the other? What's the other case? What other case are you talking about? I thought Eric Holder was in protective custody. Well, he's in the medical. He's in the medical. I don't know what the proper term is for the yellow tops, blue bottoms, but in that part of the county jail, there's a lot of dudes that are in there wearing the same outfit, and it's like dorm living. So anybody can get off on anybody in there. So no, he's not in protective custody. Maybe now he'll be put in like high power or something. What else we got here? We appreciate you keeping us up. Game up. JCat. JCat is a term they use for yellow tops, blue bottoms, but that's usually not protective custody. You're isolated. You're not in general population. Just because you're not in general population doesn't always mean you're in protective custody. Well, Tony Kidd says he been in protective custody, but the JCat section. Did you know Monster Cody? Yes, I knew Monster Cody very well. We did a television show together back in 2001 on BET. It's on this platform. Footage of that show was on this platform. It was shot in like over 20 years ago. So I've known Monster for over 20 plus years. All right, we got some people making comments about what the yellow top means. mental ward. Did you do anything on the Grim Sleeper? Yeah, I did. I covered some of that case, and there's some content on this platform on Lonnie Franklin, aka the Grim Sleeper. Did you see Bosco and Nina? Boy, I saw some clips of the fight, but I was just too busy to really watch it, in detail. Can you explain what happened with Rimpau? Certainly. For whatever reason, the bench warrant on Rimpau was canceled. He is no longer wanted by the police. The LA District Attorney's Office is not interested in prosecuting him. So he's basically free now. And he stayed away. They kind of gave up on him. And it doesn't look like he's not going to jail. He's not going to get arrested. That bench warrant is done with. How safe is Bernita after everything is said and done? I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, did she do anything wrong? She probably made a lot of mistakes. She probably could have did things differently. But I'm not sure that she's the reason why Nipsey's dead. Will Bernita get witness protection? Probably not. What happened to Eric Holder? Well, let me give an update for everyone that just tapped in, that just jumped in the room. Today was day 7 for testimony in the Eric Holder case. When we got to court, the judge asked the jury to come out, and I noticed that when he asked the jury to come out, there was no Eric Holder sitting at the table. That's unusual because usually you have your defendant sitting there at the table before your jury comes out. So as soon as I saw that, I said, something's up. The judge actually told the jury that because of unforeseen circumstances that are out of our control, we are going to have to cancel session today. And he ordered them back, the jury, tomorrow morning at 9:30. Then we later find out that Eric Holder got assaulted. He was physically assaulted, and that's the reason why he couldn't come to court today. And then we also learned that the bench warrant on Evan McKenzie, aka Rimpau, that has been canceled. So those are the two main updates in court today on this 7th day of trial testimony. Even though there wasn't any testimony, it's still the 7th day. What's the update on Cousin Carrie? I don't have an update on Cousin Carrie. Robert Pierce, I appreciate the kind words. Great reporting, Alex. Thank you very much. Thank you, because I just tuned in. Is Rimpau the guy running with the shirt in the video? Yes, Rimpau is the guy that's running. Well, there's two people that run when Eric Holder begins to shoot Nipsey Hussle. Shamai Villanueva, he runs north out of the parking lot, and Rimpau runs kind of northeast out of the parking lot. So yes, he did run. And there was actually, I counted 3 other people in that video that ran or scattered at the time Nipsey Hussle was getting shot. In fact, what is so interesting about the video, when at the time Eric Holder is shooting Nipsey Hussle, everyone is scattering and running away. And there's only one person running towards Nipsey. Does anyone want to take a guess who that person was? While the bullets are flying, there is one person running towards Nipsey. Jay Poppins, you got it right. It's Cowboy. You look at that video as Cowboy is coming out of the Marathon store. Eric Holder just finished kicking Nip in the head, and Cowboy is not hesitating to retreat, to duck, or go back in. He comes straight out while everyone is running away. And no matter how you feel about Cowboy testifying, about him becoming a witness for the prosecution, that's commendable. That part of him going out there straight to Nip while everybody else is running away, you got to say that's pretty commendable. Do you know the condition of Eric in? Do you know the condition that Eric is in? And does this mean court will be in recess tomorrow as well? No, court will be back in session tomorrow, according to the judge. He said everyone will be back at 9:30, but there is a chance that he may dismiss everyone again. We don't know. I'm going to try to find out this afternoon if it's even worth going tomorrow morning, because it was a huge waste of my time this morning to go there. I didn't want to miss the last day of testimony. I had been so busy, but I said, I got to pop in. I got so many things that I'm doing this week. So I'm going to find out what condition Eric Holder is in to determine whether or not I go tomorrow morning to see the last day of testimony. He wasn't out there when the shots were being fired. That's correct. Cowboy was not out there when the shots were being fired. Cowboy was inside the Marathon store, and there were lots of people inside all of these stores, but he's the first one to run out the store once he hears those bullets airing out. Is Eric playing the crazy role so he can go to Patton? I don't think Eric is playing any crazy role. This is not about insanity or a psychological case. This is just about whether or not it was heat of passion. Is a manslaughter, second degree or first degree. That's all it's about. My sound is out. Okay, is my still? Is my sound still out? Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. Can you hear me? Yay or nay? Let me get some headphones here. That's why these headphones are so important. Okay, let me put some headphones on so I can monitor this audio. So I'll know when it goes out. I don't need you guys to tell me. I should know when this audio goes out. Can you guys hear me? Okay. Is there a live stream of the trial? No. There is not a live stream of the trial because the judge didn't allow it. But we will have cameras in the court for closing arguments, and I will try to post the closing arguments to StreetTV as soon as possible. And there will be a camera in court for the reading of the verdict. So we'll have that too. Is Holder being held in the men's Twin Towers? Or is it no, it's not an undisclosed location. He's right there in the downtown LA County Jail, Men's Central Jail. Wasn't the female from Hoover? You know, I've heard people been sending that to me and saying that, but so far there's been absolutely no evidence that Bernita Nicholson was in a gang. She was specifically asked that question, and the detectives already investigated it. So I'm going to have to say that is a unconfirmed rumor. Yeah. Well, Holder, someone just asked, I thought Holder is isolated. How did he get attacked? Well, he's not in general population. He's in a, let's call it, the medical ward. And in the medical ward, there are other people there. So maybe someone in the medical ward got off on him. And half the people in the medical ward really aren't supposed to be in the medical ward. So some people go to the medical ward as a strategy. The girl is not from Hoover. Okay. Yo, Alex. So Eric Holder got stabbed in jail. Can you confirm? No, I'm not confirming that he got stabbed. What I'm saying, he was physically assaulted, and it was characterized to me like a beating. So I'm not saying it's a stabbing. I don't have that information, but I can confirm he was assaulted, and that's the reason why he wasn't in court this morning. Did they show the autopsy photo? The coroner hasn't testified yet. That was going to be the first witness this morning, the coroner. So we were going to see autopsy photos for the first time. So testimony hopefully will resume tomorrow morning. It all depends on how severe the attack, how severe Eric Holder's injuries are. I don't think the court wants to bring him into trial with visible injuries. So I wonder if he's got something that needs to be healed. We'll find out later this afternoon. Who's testifying tomorrow? Baby girl asks. Well, if Eric Holder is able to come to court, the prosecution, I believe the prosecution's last witness is going to be the coroner. And then the defense is going to have the case, and they're going to put up two witnesses. So it looks like we have three witnesses left before this trial goes to before it goes to closing arguments. Those three witnesses can all be done in one day, in less than a day. Free Rimpau. Well, Rimpau's not in custody. As I mentioned earlier in this live, the bench warrant on Rimpau was canceled. Eric wouldn't have needed to do. Will prosecution call Eric to the stand? No. The prosecution cannot call a defendant to the stand. Only the defense can call the defendant to the stand. The defendant has the right to remain silent throughout the entire trial, and that shouldn't be looked at as guilt or innocence. Any report on the sentencing range? I'll give you my quick sentencing range if he's guilty of everything. If he's guilty of everything, I believe he's looking at about 65, 70 years to life, but it can be calculated to about 108 years. So there are ranges to some of the convictions. So I'm assuming he'll probably get the high range. But can you imagine a judge sentencing a man that's in his 30s to 100 years in prison? It almost makes no sense to get sentenced to 100 years, but that's what he's looking at. All right, we're halfway through this live. I'll be on this live for about 29 more minutes answering questions. But today was day 7 of the Eric Holder trial, of testimony in the Eric Holder trial, but we didn't get any testimony today. The judge excused the jury and told them that because of unforeseen circumstances, because of situations that are out of our control, we are going to recess. We recessed before we even started, and he ordered the jury back tomorrow morning. We later found out that Eric Holder was assaulted. It was characterized to me as a beating. Everyone's asking me if he was stabbed. I don't know that. Yeah, I'd like to ask you guys a question. For anyone who's got experience in the LA County Jail, would this attack have happened in the jail probably over the weekend, or could it happen in the holding tank in the criminal courts building? I'll be sure to ask that question, and I'll let you know. How come they didn't subpoena other witnesses? Well, they did subpoena witnesses. They subpoenaed Shermai Villanueva. They subpoenaed Carrie Latham. They subpoenaed Rimpau unsuccessfully. He didn't show up. So why is Rimpau scared to talk? I don't know if we can say he's scared to talk. I take it as he just doesn't want to. Somebody got 12 life sentences plus 100 years before. Yeah, I've heard these sentences before. I just find them bizarre. A man that can only live so many years. Holding tank. The counselor says he probably got assaulted in the holding tank. What's the point of 100 years? I have no idea, but he's gonna. The range for this sentencing, if he's found guilty of all 5 felonies, would be about 100 years. 100 years on the high end, on the low end, 65 years. A 100 years is common in a Pennsylvania prison, says Samir. I sentence you to 100 years in prison. Hey, does anyone remember what J. Stone Rue said about doing 100 years in prison? I thought that was funny. If you've been watching my interviews, you should know the answer to that question. What did J. Stone Rue say about getting sentenced? People are really following this platform and really tapping with all the interviews. Is Eric Holder Sr. his dad, the Attorney General? I doubt very much that the Attorney General, Eric Holder, is his dad. You got to think, the name Eric and Holder, pretty common. So there's going to be a lot of Eric Holders out there. And Eric Holder was the Attorney General under Barack Obama. Do you think Eric was mad about the paperwork situation or Nip not really paying attention to his music? Look, there are a few things that occurred in those 9 minutes that Eric Holder was at the Marathon parking lot. The first thing was Bernita. They pull in. She sees Nipsey. She immediately starts to compliment him. She says, "Oh, wow, he's so fine. I want to take a picture with him." There was testimony that Eric Holder didn't even say anything about that. He didn't get mad about it. But in listening to the testimony, especially from Bernita, this guy Eric Holder definitely doesn't show too many feelings, doesn't show too much emotions. You don't have any idea what this guy's thinking. But that's the first thing that people are speculating about. The second thing, of course, is the paperwork. Excuse me. The paperwork snitch conversation. And the third thing, let me get some water. And the third thing would be the reaction that Eric Holder got when he asked about his music. So there's all kind of things going on here. Of course, the trial is focused on the snitch paperwork conversation and not so much about those two other elements that may be contributing factors. Who knows? Only Mr. Holder can answer that question. Terrence Gant says, and he's so fine. That's a lie. Well, she testified that that's what she said. Did you ever hear of Holder saying the government paid him to do it? Never heard anything about Eric Holder saying the government paid him to do it. No. If he said that, can you send me that link to Crypto Color Lights Tech? Send me that link if that's something that is out there, because I've never heard that. Here go the weirdos. C. Harden says, hey, man. Oh, man. You know, these weirdos are going to be talking about, hey, look, Biggie and Pac got killed in 96 and 97. And we still got weirdos talking about how they got killed. And I know exactly who killed both of them. I know exactly who killed both of them. But here we are, 25 years later, still speculating on a massive conspiracy in the murder of Pac and Biggie. But now Nip can't rest. The weirdos are going to be speculating on what caused his murder for the next 20 years. So, who killed Biggie? Man, we're talking about the Eric Holder trial. I just brought that up as an example. Today was day 7. We didn't get any testimony because the judge excused the jury. It turns out that Eric Holder got assaulted, and it was characterized to me as a beating, although a lot of people are saying it could have been a stabbing. I don't have any more information on that. As soon as I get off this live in 20 minutes, I'm going to make a phone call, and I'll post over on my Instagram page an update on what happened to Eric Holder. Glizzy Hendricks, in respect to Orlando and Poochie. That's all you got to say right there. That's all you need to know. More people should be in here. Hey, if you want to get immediate updates to the Eric Holder trial, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you tap in. I will give updates as soon as I can. Today's day 7, and we really didn't have any testimony. We just learned that Eric Holder was assaulted, and then also the other development was they lifted the bench warrant for Rimpau, Evan McKenzie, that $500,000 bench warrant that John McKinney requested the judge to raise to from $50,000. That has been lifted. So they are not looking for Rimpau anymore. So if you know Rimpau on social media, if you're connected to him on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram, send him a message and tell him that Alex is reporting that bench warrant has been lifted and he doesn't have to like hide out and do whatever he was doing to avoid coming to court. Who told Nipsey that Eric had paperwork? Oh, great question. Is there conflicting witness testimony? Well, we have two gang experts, one for the cops, one for the prosecution, and one for the defense. So there's going to be a little bit of conflicting testimony there. We haven't heard the defense's gang expert yet because the case is still in the hands of the prosecution. And then there's a little bit of conflicting testimony between Cowboy and Bernita. Them two have a little bit of conflicting testimony. But actually, I don't think their testimony completely conflicts. A little bit of confliction, but not a whole lot. Nip never called him a snitch. Cowboy said, in fact, Holder called Nip a snitch. Yeah, it's quite possible. Cowboy could be telling the truth that Nipsey never used the word snitch. It's very possible that the word snitch actually came from Eric Holder's mouth. And I remember hearing Bernita say during direct that one of the things she heard Eric Holder say was that he said to Nip, "So are you calling me a snitch?" Which suggests that Nipsey wasn't using that word. So when when Cowboy says the conversation was about paperwork, he might be telling the truth on that one. And that the word snitch came from Eric Holder. I like the work that you're doing on your show, bro. Hey, I appreciate it, man. Thanks for tapping into Street TV. Make sure you subscribe to get these updates as soon as possible. I will give another update tomorrow on day 8. I will do another actually video. I did do an update for one of the days of the trial, so I'm gonna go look at my notes and do a video for that. Drop that tonight, and go listen to. I did a synopsis of Cowboy's testimony. That was day 1. I did a whole synopsis of Bernita Nicholson's testimony. That was day 3. So go tap into those videos and let me know what you think. She needs jail time. The getaway driver says Terrence Newman. Well, they were going to try to give her some jail time. They were going to try to charge her with something, but the detectives decided that there was no crime committed on her part. So unfortunately, you're not going to get an arrest of Bernita Nicholson because they determined that she was just naive. Crypto Color Lights is sending me the link of Eric Holder claiming that he was paid to kill Nip. I'd love to see that. The conspiracy theory is on. Somebody, JG said that's fake. Dusty Cole said that's trash. So, any real questions anyone want to ask about the trial? Today was day 7 of testimony, even though there was no testimony. As soon as the jury came out, the judge excused everyone. So tomorrow morning we should be back, depending on if Eric is to what extent his injuries are. Will autopsy photos be leaked, you think? Well, the autopsy photos will become public record. I wouldn't call that leaked. They'll be available for you to get and do whatever you like to do with them. And I got a feeling they're going to be posted all over the internet. And I can tell you that I am not going to post any autopsy photos. I got a ton of autopsy photos and I never post them. So maybe the judge will seal them. Who knows? Many instances, autopsy photos are not sealed and the family's not even here. Usually that request would come from the family. The prosecution could ask the judge, hey, can we seal these? Can we seal this exhibit? But since the family's not here, there's no motivation to seal anything. They're not speaking up. Hope they seal them. Yeah, because it's not going to stop anyone from going downtown. You can go to downtown LA and request them. Do you think Nipsey or Eric's family will be there during the sentencing phase? I really can't say. At some point, I really thought more of Nipsey's homeboys would be there. You know, people that he put on, people that careers he helped establish. None of those guys. No one. The only guy that's there is Cowboy. That's it. Um, but maybe during the sentencing or maybe during the verdict, some of his friends might show up. How do you think Nipsey feels if he could look down at this trial and he sees that there's no family, there's no friends, there's no homeboys, there's nobody in this courtroom advocating for Nip? How do you think he would feel? Cowboy was his only friend. Man, you know, I could tell that Cowboy got a lot of love for Nipsey, and it's kind of disappointing that people had theories. The conspiracy theorists were pointing the finger at Cowboy. You know, I got a chance to know Cowboy, to meet Cowboy, to talk to Cowboy. I actually met Cowboy, you know, a few years ago, but I'm actually having conversations with the brother, and there is no doubt on God's green earth that this man had a tremendous amount of love for Nipsey Hussle. I mean, it is no doubt. So if you're a conspiracy theorist and you pointing the finger at Cowboy, your theory just goes right out the window right there. But my question is, how do you think Nip would feel if he can look down at this trial and see that there's no family, there's no friends, there's no homeboys? You think he might be cool with that? Or do you think he might feel a certain kind of way? Why wasn't Black Sam subpoenaed? Um, you'd have to ask Detective Cedric Washington. I'm not sure what value his brother testifying would be. So you'd have to ask the detective that. David Williams, Cowboy loves Nip for sure. Man, I'm glad somebody said it. I'm glad somebody recognizes that. I can't believe some of you weirdo conspiracy theorists were actually blaming Cowboy. Lauren London ain't there. No, she hasn't been in court not one single day. Monte Carlo says disappointed and hurt. I guess that's in response to my question. All right, I'm gonna be wrapping this up in about 7 minutes. and I'll take some questions. I've been in this trial since the very beginning of opening statements. Today would have been day 7 of testimony. It didn't happen. Eric Holder was not in court. The judge told the jury to go home, come back in the morning. We find out later that Eric Holder was assaulted. He was assaulted probably either in the LA County jail or in the holding tank in the courtroom. I mean, in the courthouse. The courthouse has its own jail too. So that's why he wasn't in court, because of whatever injuries that he suffered. And then we also learned that the bench warrant, the $500,000 bench warrant for Rimpau's arrest to force him to come to court to testify in this case, that has been canceled. So they are not interested in bringing Rimpau into court anymore. So those are the two things that happened. No testimony, no witnesses, and hopefully this case will resume tomorrow. I'll take about 5 or 6 more minutes of questions, and then I'm going to wrap this up. Rimpau wasn't coming anyways. That's true, but he was facing a contempt charge, which is not on the table anymore. But I agree, he wasn't coming anyways. But at some point, he would have got arrested if he had a judge that felt disrespected by him not showing up. But this judge is cool. Judge H. Clay Jacke. I'm not sure if how do you pronounce Jacke? H. Clay Jacke. I could tell he's a very nice man. He seems to be a man with a lot of integrity. He just seems like a really cool judge. Like if I had a case, if I was going down for a case, I would want this man to be the judge for my case, because I could see he is very fair to both sides. So if Rimpau had one of those judges that was like, no, this man disrespected the court, we're going to issue this bench warrant until he's in custody, it could have went that way. But today, that bench warrant was lifted. And the only person who's the only person that can cancel a bench warrant? Let's see how many of you guys know. Who's the only person that can cancel a bench warrant? Lauren ain't going to sit down in the room. The judge. I believe he's the only person that can cancel a bench warrant. Alex, do you feel Nip died in vain? That's a no-brainer. We lost a guy that was in the peak of his career. 33 years old. You are at the peak of whatever you're doing. At 33, you're at the peak of whatever you're doing. So, so unfortunate that this happened. Was Eric drug tested on arrest? We haven't received any testimony about any drug tests that were done on Eric. So I can't say whether or not it was or wasn't, because it could have been done and they just didn't introduce it as evidence. The judge could have determined that this is not relevant. I would imagine that they would have tested him, but I'm not sure. Just because you get arrested doesn't automatically mean they drug test you. What do you think about the last comment Nip made on wondering how it would play out? That just suggests that there was some history. That comment that Nip made, there was some history between Eric and Nip. I find it very interesting that Nipsey Hussle tweeted at 2:52, having strong enemies is a blessing, at 2:52. And then this all happens at like 3:18. This all goes down in less than 30 minutes later. Has anyone thought about that? He tweeted Having strong enemies is a blessing. And in less than like in 20, let's say in like 28 minutes later, he's gunned down. Kiara Murray says, I notice a lot of people's last tweets are foreshadowing. So he did that tweet while he was sitting in the car in that parking lot, because the video shows that car pulling into the Marathon parking lot at about 2:49 p.m. So that tweet, if you go to Twitter and look at that tweet, it says 2:52. And he was sitting in the car for a few minutes, and he merges out the car around 2:54, I believe. 2:54. What car did Nip pull up in? He pulled up in this four-door black car. I forget the make and model. Real nice car, where you can see the brake. What are those called? Not the brake pads, but what are the metal parts that hold the brake pads in? They were painted red, and you can see that through the rim. Well, the calipers, red calipers, beautiful car. It looks dark. I'm not sure if it was black or a navy blue, but the brake caliper. But I think I'm gonna wrap it up right here. I got some work I got to tend to. I want to thank everyone for tapping in the Street TV, and thanks for listening to this Eric Holder trial update. And I'll tap back in with you guys tomorrow. I'm not sure if I'm gonna call tomorrow's court date 8, because today we didn't receive any testimony. So should I call tomorrow's day? Will tomorrow's day be day 7, or should I call tomorrow day 8? Leave that in the comments and let me know if you were tracking these days. And I was tracking them as days of testimony. So today was supposed to be the 7th day of testimony. Even though there was court, there was no testimony. So I'll figure that out shortly. And thanks again for everyone that was tapping in this live on the Eric Holder trial. Peace.